pull up to a petrol station and pay 197.6 per litre. But where does that money actually go? It starts with raw crude oil. 1 barrel holds 159 litres. Roughly $93 a barrel. That works out to 58 cents per litre. Multiply that by the exchange rate of 130 and your raw crude oil costs 75. That's it, that's the oil. But by the time it reaches your tanks, it's different. Refining adds 19, ocean, freight and insurance add another 650, trader and financing margins 5.73. That brings us to 107. That is the landed cost at Mombasa port. Then comes the Kenyan additions, pipeline, storage, delivery 4.93, importer and dealer margins 17.39. A small stabilization subsidy knocks off Kenya shillings 4.34, and then taxes and levies, 8 of them, totaling 72.38. The final pump price is 197.6. That is how it works. Every single shilling between 75 of the raw food and 197 you pay, every shilling is refining, shipping, pipeline cost, margins and tax added right here in Kenya. Let's zoom in onto those taxes, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. Of the Kenya shillings 197.6 you pay for the super petrol, 72.38, that's 36.6 goes straight to the government as taxes and levies. More than a third of every litre is pure tax. Here is how that breaks down. Road maintenance levy 25, excise duty 22, VAT at 15. The VAT here is at 8%. So it used to be at 16%, but it was reduced to 8. The government just passed this through Parliament very fast today in order to get legal, because previously the minister is only allowed to reduce it to about 13%, about 12%. Petroleum Development Levy is 5.4. Import declaration fee 2.56. Railway Development Levy 2.05. Petroleum Regulatory Levy about a shilling, and Merchant Living Levy about 0.03. So if you look at the Petroleum Development Levy, the subsidy that was used to buffer the price, the 4 shillings that we have seen earlier, that comes here. So the government is actually collecting it, and it will be more relevant if you see the prices for kerosene, because for kerosene, the government is subsidizing to a big extent, actually 89 shillings per litre. 8 separate charges stacked on top of each other before you even started your engine. The international cost of your fuel, the crude, the shipping, the refining account for 54% of the price. The Kenyan government takes 37%. That ratio tells you everything you need to know about why fuel is expensive in this country. And here is something else which has been talked about, but many questions have come about this. There is a government fund that is quietly subsidizing your fuel every month. It's called the Petroleum Development Levy. I've mentioned it earlier. In April alone, 6.2 billion is going to be deployed. So here is how it works. The real cost of a litre of kerosene, the one used by millions of Kenyan households for cooking and lighting, is approximately 260. That is without any government subsidy. but the pump price is 152. The difference is almost 90 per litre absorbed by this fund. It also cushions petrol by 4.34 and diesel by 22. So the government collects this fee in advance from you, where when fuel prices are favorable, and even now the government is actually collecting this fee in advance from you. So it's almost give and take, because they give you 4 shillings, but they take away 5. Right? So in other months, there might actually be no subsidy. So there was no subsidy before. But because of the level of prices, because of the fact that there's been a very high price, the price would actually be about 202 if no subsidy was applied for fuel. So why aren't prices even lower? Because the same fuel bill that funds this stabilization mechanism also adds 72 in taxes. The government is simultaneously cushioning prices with one hand and taxing them with the other. The PDL fund is real, it's working, but fighting against a tax structure that it can only partially offset. In 2023, Kenya was facing a fuel supply crisis. The government solution was a government-to-government deal, direct agreement with Saudi Aramco, ADNOC and ENOC to supply Kenya on a 180-day credit terms. On paper, it worked. Supply stability was secured. The chaotic scramble for spot market fuel costing $500 million a month came to an end. Freight cost dropped by 11%. But then came the questions. By 2023 and 2024, Kenya had paid over 210 billion under this arrangement. In March 2026, substandard fuel was discovered on one of the ships. 1 month later, in April 2026, the DCI arrested 3 of the most senior figures in Kenya energy sector, the KES, the EPRA Director General and the KPC Managing Director. The allegation that politically connected agents had been inserted into the supply chain, inflating cost and compromising fuel quality. And actually that has a lot of truth in it, because about 500 million was found in one of the residents of those who were arrested. A deal that was supposed to clean up Kenya's fuel procurement had become the very scandal it was meant to prevent. Let's go back to 2022. William Ruto on the campaign trail was very clear about fuel. At a presidential debate, he said, and I quote, 50% of fuel cost is taxes, 15 different taxes. Time to rethink VAT on fuel. On the campaign trail, he promised to tackle the corruption cartels he said were artificially inflating fuel prices. So what happened when he got into office? The Finance Act of 2023, his government's first major budget, actually doubled VAT on fuel from 8 to 16%. That added roughly 14 per litre overnight. It triggered protests in March of 2023 and then in the Gen Z protest of 2024. Then in April 2026, at a rally in Kisii, he announced a reduction of VAT back to 8%, framed as cushioning Kenyans from the cost of living. Net change from where he started on the campaign trail, 0. VAT is back to where it was before his government raised it. And the cartels, 3 of his own government top energy officials were arrested by his own DCI following allegations of politically connected contracts in the very fuel supply chain he promised to clean up. Here is a question that should end this conversation. If Kenya's fuel is expensive because of geography, because we're importing crude from far away, because of the pipeline, because of the logistics. Then why do our neighbors pay less? Uganda is landlocked. It pays Kenya pipeline costs to get fuel from Mombasa, and yet Ugandans pay 184. Kenya pays 198. Tanzania shares the same logistic routes. They pay 191. Rwanda pays 191. Burundi 145, though supply can be unreliable. Nigeria, with its own crude and Dangote refinery, pay 107. These countries use the same ships, the same ocean, the same East African road and pipeline network. The difference is not geography. The difference is not logistics. The difference is the Kenyan tax burden and the political choices behind it. That is the story of Kenyan fuel crisis, and now you exactly know where your money goes.